Hello and welcome back to the Apostles of Anime podcast. I'm your host Ian, along with Isaiah.
What up?
And Gavin.
Yo, yo.
And today we are very excited to be talking about the Demon Slayer season finale that we just got off of watching. Hopefully around the same time our reaction video to that will be up. It'll be our first one that we've ever shot, and it was a blast. It was much fun, and we're excited for you guys to see it. And obviously that'll be up on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on YouTube, you can hop right over to that video. If not, check us out on YouTube under Apostles of Anime. But we wanted to dedicate this episode to talking about that episode and this season in review as a whole, and what our thoughts were, and just how awesome Demon Slayer is, and so we could gush over it. It really has just like swept anime community, you know what I mean? Like, it's really just hit us all by storm.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that it did, because this is just a great show, man. So we want to hop into it from the beginning. Obviously, spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the episode, we're going to be spoiling it. But we want to start right from the beginning. And fucking hell was that a beginning.
The literal first 12 minutes are like a fucking train ride.
Dude, I was afraid. And I was telling these guys, I was afraid, especially when we were doing the reaction video, right? Yeah. We didn't want to be in the scenario where the last episode was like not that hype per se, right?
Or it was like very exposition heavy.
Exactly.
And not like, you know,
like the last couple episodes have kind of been that, and it's like, okay, I didn't know if this was going to be like the wrap up. Like, they could have just taken it after that whole meeting part, and like that was the exposition-ish stuff, which was still awesome, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, there aren't those moments. The fact that this just came straight out the gate like a fucking cheetah, dude, like just 0 to 100 in a second, was like, whoa, dude, like that was incredible. Our reactions were just like literally jaw on the floor. I had goosebumps the entire fucking time. It was really incredible. I love how from the beginning it was through the perspective of that one demon. Like, I think he was the first one to die too. Was he the one that gets his mind read in the beginning?
Oh, yes.
It's through his perspective at first. He's like, we're here, and it's like, you're thinking, it's like, all right, because we just came off the cusp of the 12 having, you know, the whatever, however many. The humans.
The humans,
the
pillars.
The pillars. That's it. I'm sorry. Having their meeting, right? And we saw how they conducted that, and how much respect and reverence they had for their master, and like, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then it was cool because we got to see like a counterpart to that with the demons meeting, and it was only the lower 5. So you're like, okay, interesting. Why wouldn't he bring the uppers? But like, maybe he's just that confident that it's not needed. But turns out it wasn't a meeting. It was a literal fucking execution.
Very quick that he is disciplining these motherfuckers and not.
And just the contrast, dude, between like him and the human leader. Like, it's respect and reverence for him. For this guy, it's straight up fear.
Yeah. And you can't even be salty about it, because he can literally read your mind and just like there's nothing to do. These guys were so done the moment that they stepped in. You know what I mean? Like, there was, and I like that, like, they all had different reactions, right? Yeah. Some of the guys were like, "Oh no, we're fucking dead. Like, what are we gonna do?" And then the one dude's like, "I'm running. I just gotta run, right? That's the only thing to do." And then of course the last dude was like turned on or aroused or admire it.
Oh, that's
right. The last person.
Well, it's funny because I was thinking about it. I thought she was playing his ego, but honestly, I think like she genuinely believed everything that she said, because even when like she went through that whole like teleporting thing and is on the ground, she's like, that was fucking amazing, I want more of his blood.
You don't get stabbed and injected with a demon's blood, and if you're still that way, you
want more. Yeah, which is kind of crazy.
That was wild, but that's what he needs. He needs supreme and absolute loyalty at any cost. Like, you need to be a literal drone.
And so that was the other thing that I liked about that scene, is it wasn't like them giving excuses and he's like, "Oh, well, you should do this." He was like, "No, if you're not coming here telling me you've killed one of them, then you failed." Like, there's no gray. It's black or white to him, and the white is like anything he says, right? His word is absolute law, and so to oppose that in any way, shape, or form, even just by disagreeing with a statement he makes, is like the same thing as committing a crime.
In your fucking mind.
Yeah.
If you disagree, can we just talk about that? You could disagree in your fucking mind, and you can't even do anything. Like, my man just fucking iced you. Oh, dude, that was wild. And like, I like how I was telling these guys that his ability or whatever, like, just part of him is like he literally, it's like an extension of all these heads that come out, which is fucking gross, but
so you
awesome.
compared it to...
compared it to Alucard from Hellsing. For anyone who's watched that show, like, the whole point of that is that the reason he's so powerful is because every person he's devoured is now a part of him. So it's like he's not just Alucard. He is a literal fortress of people within him. And, so like, all of their souls are under his control. And it kind of reminded me of that because it was like all their heads were in it. And I was like, I wonder if those people are, like, still alive in the sense, or, like, they're literally, like, an extension of him. Right. And it would make sense for his shape-shifting abilities as well. Because that's another thing I want to get into that we were talking about. I don't know. Well, we don't know much about him, right? We don't know if he was a human, he, she, whatever, was a human at one point, turned into a demon. We're told that this thing is the first demon.
Right.
We don't even know at this point if if the real form is the he, right? You know what I mean, with the hat, and he just turned into it because he wants to be concealed, or if it's like there really is no gender with it. You know what I mean? And it's like. It's just whatever he wants to be. I keep on saying he because I'm sorry. I'm going to keep on saying that because it's just natural reaction. Because that's the first form I've seen him in, so I just refer to him as that. But you know what I mean? Like, where it's like he could just take on any form that he wants at that given moment, and like there is no gender. Or, I don't know. That's a good question.
But not even form, scent. Like, he literally changes everything about him. Yeah. But what's also interesting when you're talking about his ability and all the people's faces and shit when he comes off of his body, we've already seen that before in the show. If you remember back to the selection or whatever you call it when they went through the testing phase. Remember when Tanjiro went against that fucking green guy?
Yep.
Remember, and he was the same thing. The Michelin Man, and he was literally just all like fucking heads and body parts of people he's consumed, and he just turned into this giant monster. Yeah. And it seems like the antagonist, I'm not going to remember his name, he's like a more controlled version of him. Because remember that green guy's like, yeah, I killed fucking hundreds of people, and this is like what I've turned into. Yeah. And it's like, it's almost like he can control that like ability kind of.
I wonder if all the demons have that in some sense or another. Like anyone they've devoured has become part of them. It's just that because Muzan or whatever, I'm just calling him Mussolini because Mussolini has been alive for so long and has mastered it. I don't know. There's a lot of questions that this raised, but like I'm very excited to find them out.
What's interesting is like because all the other demons, at least like to our knowledge, somewhat have the. Like, you know, when they consume another person or whatever, they, like, in some sense take on, you know what I mean, like some form, like some version of the person that they killed. But this guy can, like, change his scent. And I wonder if that's, like, a specific reaction to Tanjiro, who we know has an abnormally high, like, sense of smell and can smell demons' auras. So I wonder, because remember, that's how Tanjiro, when he encountered him, that's how he found him the first time. He sniffed him out. So I wonder if, like, this is a way of him, because, like, we also know that being the first demon, he's been alive for... you know, fucking
centuries.
Ever. Exactly. So I wonder if like he's adapted and developed this ability to just mask himself in different like auras and stuff so that he can remain unhidden. You know
I don't know. I just thought it was hilarious when it's like the chick comes up, and remember our first reaction was like, okay,
yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, and it starts like, yo, what the fuck? We were just as surprised as the demons were. It was fucking hilarious. Or how about that one dude that tried to yeet away from him?
Yeah.
And we're like, dude, this man's fast, but there's no way he's escaping. Yeah. And literally there wasn't even a sound, and his head was cut clean off, bro. That was wild. Like the power of this dude is like through the roof. It's off the charts, and anyone who's like gonna go up against this man, female, whatever,
needs to know.
Need to be.
But the way they created that scene was amazing, because not only did he get so far, but when they panned back to him, literally his head was just, he was holding it. You know, and it's like, how did it go from that distance all the way back to start? It's like he just manipulated like the whole room and everything.
Yeah, it was wild. And how about the soundtrack behind that too? It just did such a good job at making it so freaking eerie, dude.
Well,
like
that's from that whole
time.
like scene, like the music, the angles, the cinematography. This dude's like every shot also of just that the villain guy petrified. Like, you know what I mean? It was either like a fucking, you know, close-up shot of his face where his eyes are like blood fucking red, or you know what I mean? It was like every, like from the shots to the music, everything came together for that fucking 10 minutes.
I literally thought I was watching like an actual movie.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Like
the
opening of Endgame.
Yeah,
when, like they're
that
on the
music
ship
too
is
like this like shit Thanos just dropped.
Yeah,
like that level of like
was
fucking
so wild, man. And I'm so glad that they brought that, because it was like it's the sense of terror. And like where it's like this show, because there's a lot of cute moments which we'll get to, and like heartwarming moments, but like the show is pretty brutal all at the same time. And wow,
I also think it does a good job of like sort of reestablishing the stakes, right? Because I think up until now, what we had with the spider demons in the mountains and stuff with Tanjiro and everything, it was cool to see like Tanjiro and his group like go up against these guys, and like obviously there was a gap in like power, right? Like Tanjiro and Zenitsu himself weren't up to par with them. They were like literally barely just able to like stand up against them, and then we had the higher like the pillars come in and sort of like, you know, just wipe the forest clean of all of them. But it's like, so up until that point, at least for me, I was like, okay, well, we've got like the pillars now, right? Like they're the bee's knees and they can fucking, you know what I mean? But it's like, no, there's still niggas who are like leaps and bounds stronger than, you know what I mean? Like, these are the people you don't fuck with, right? They're the ones that don't get called in unless they're going to kill somebody. And it's like, it just reestablished like that there's a legitimate threat out here, you know?
Yeah, and then he iced all of them with like a blink.
And then he was upset, so he just killed them all.
Literal child. No, that was just wild. That whole scene just was incredible. Like, I could just gush about that for the next hour.
I have a random observation though. If you've noticed, when they were in the meeting with the lower five, that bitch that's playing, it's not a guitar, but whatever that instrument was,
the best.
I'd imagine she'd have to be like on the higher end. Like, obviously she's not the bottom five, but she's got to be up there. But what's interesting so far with any like demon that plays a musical instrument of some sort, their abilities involve like changing the world around him. Like, remember the drum guy? Whenever he clicked, it like the dimensions like changed. And right now we have another one with the guitar, same thing. Whatever note she played, like the room and like just everything changed. So it's kind of weird how they're incorporating like instruments, but they're like kind of the same ability, but like in different ways. You know what I mean? Like everything that was introduced that involves like moving like dimensions and worlds is an instrument. So I'm kind of like curious moving forward. Like, is there gonna be a fucking trumpeter that like, I don't know. Like,
I think it speaks to the show. There's like a very clear effort or attempt to root like as many cultural relevant things like into this show like that there is in Japan. Period. Which I really like. I think like there's a very you know what I mean. It understands and it knows where it comes from, and it plays on those roots really well with stuff like that, right? And I think like that just something about it, you know what I mean?
110%. That was one of the reasons when I first started watching that show. I even told you, I was like, I love how steeped in the culture this show is. Like, I've said it before, and I could be wrong. The dub might be great, but like my point was that I couldn't even picture watching it dub because it was like it was so steeped in Japanese culture that it was like, you know, but that was a point for me, like a huge point in why I liked it. So I agree with you. Yeah, and you know what that chick on the thing reminded me of? You ever seen Mad Max Fury Road? You know that dude on the guitar that's on front of the car the entire time? He's like jamming out, like the big bit, like all the and he never stops fucking playing that guitar the entire time until he like dies or whatever. Like doesn't say a word, just jams. That's what I just pictured that chick as. It had me cracking up, but So moving on from there, because that scene was incredible, obviously. From there, we get back to the HQ, I guess, or what's her name? Butterfly lady?
Shinobu.
Shinobu's house. Shinobu, a.k.a. Best Girl, got back to her house, and the crow came in to tell him what's good.
Like he always does. He rolled in, he said, niggas, it's time to work. Hope you had fun sleeping.
Yeah, he's like,
skip a beat, dude. He's like, all right, you're good, you're out. Like,
he's like, let's hit that punch card, baby. We got money to make. Time is money. He was great, man. He came in, so they were like, all right, let's hit this next mission. Our boys are recovered. Yep. They've mastered the breathing, or at least gotten it down pretty freaking well.
Yeah.
You know, all of them too. I was glad that not only Tanjiro was the one to master that. I'm glad that the other two did, because I was like, oh man, they're going to be like a literal, because it's like they have to be at his level at least, or somewhat close, because they're going to be anchors if they're not.
Right.
You know, so I was glad about that, and you know, just dude, it was great because the first 12 minutes or whatever is just like absolute terror, and then it was so awesome to go back to Tanjiro and like he's saying his goodbyes. And literally just helping everyone, like life-altering shit that he's saying to these people. I was like ready to cry. I went from being like, "Whoa" to like,
So what I like about it is like, Tanjiro is probably one of my favorite protagonists because
absolutely.
Like, and it's in this episode like demonstrates my favorite thing about it is he genuinely likes other people, right? And like he everything he does is to like help other people. You know what I mean? And it's not. Like, so he, you know, him and Zenitsu and Inosuke spent last 3 episodes, I think, in the rehabilitation center.
Something like that, 3 or 4.
And, you know, between Shinobu and her apprentice and, like, the other little girl and all these people have been, like, helping them and training them. And there's just this real sense of, like, gratitude and respect that Tanjiro clearly has for these people. And, like, you know, is, in a sense, like, repaying it by like just showing, you know what I mean? But he's like not doing anything crazy or spectacular, and he's not really giving them like anything, like a tangible thing. It's just like this sense of like respect.
And I don't even think
like,
he feels as if he's repaying them. I think it's more he's just being himself, and like naturally that's just who he is, you know. So he doesn't mean like, oh, I'm going to help this person.
No,
like,
no.
I don't
his
think
form
he's
of
doing
repayment
it.
was just saying thank you.
Yeah.
But the fact that who goes above and beyond, like that's just part of his character, and he can't even help it. Yeah. And it's like he's like once Tanjiro has come into your life, and like touch, you know, like he has this inescapable presence that like with you, that just carries with you for probably the rest of your life. Like what the things he says to the people that he says them to literally alters the course of like their life choices.
Sure.
Yeah,
swear. And it's very immediately it reminds me of Naruto, right? That's his whole character perk, right? Is that like, you know, all the people he meets, right, to some varying degree have something going on in their lives that have like made them give up or become like cynical or negative of the world, but then between meeting Naruto and his interactions, like they're altered and changed for the better, right? They're like re-inspired and reinvigorated. Literally the whole fourth grade ninja war is everybody being like, fuck, we can't do this, and he's like, nah, come on niggas, let's go, and I'm like, bet, let's go, you know. And it's like, so like that I've always liked that, you know what I mean, with that, the idea of this character who is so pure, right, in his generosity and in his kindness, that it just like involuntarily inspires people to like be better and do better. Like that's
well, it's motivation, you know, and that's like the important thing about his character development. He motivates everybody and himself, you know, and, like watching the actions of others motivates him, and then like
I would even use the word inspire. Yeah. He's just like, you can't help but be positive around him. Like when he helps and forgive me for forgetting some of these names. But
the apprentice girl,
when he helps the one that says she was the coward, and he's you know what I mean, like, dude, I was about to shed a tear there when he's like, you're not a coward, and he's like, you helped me, so now you're part of me, and you'll always be with me, and she was like, you know, like she just didn't even know how to react to that, but like she couldn't help but be glad. And then the other girl with the coin, like that was huge for her because he's like, I would have just flipped it until it hit heads, and like she knows, she's like, I'm in love with this man, like you know what I mean, which was great because it was like, again, you just went off this like terrifying blood spatter murder fest, you know what I mean, but you go and you're like, man, it's like so crazy because the contrast between the antagonist and the protagonist is like so polar opposite.
It's literally like, everybody this villain dude comes into contact with becomes like more terrified and cynical of the world, and everybody Tanjiro comes into contact with is more inspired and more loving about the world. So it's interesting that like just their characters are these forces of nature almost, right? And they alter everything and everyone they come into contact with for better and for worse.
Phenomenal, man. I love it. And then when they were saying goodbye, of course Inosuke had me cracking up the entire time. I love that fucking character. I love that character.
One of my favorite moments was not in the finale episode, but in the last episode when he gets his swords and they're like, now be careful. I spent day and night slaving over these swords, and he's like yeah, you like that color? I think like that blue hue is a really nice color, and he's like, is that a rock over here? He just bashes the fucking like holes into the sword. He's like, that's better. Like, I'm gonna kill you.
You know what was funny is when I was looking at them, I'm like, damn, I hope they're not like that, because like that's part of it. And then he just bashed him with a rock. I was like, I love this guy. Oh my god.
I also love the intro to the smiths or whatever, the sword, when they're coming down the path or whatever, and Tanjiro's like, hey, it's you guys, like, hey, what's up? And all of a sudden they go from walking and the guy just goes, it just starts running at him with the fucking like knife or whatever, and I'm like, oh, this dude's going for blood. So crazy.
It's hilarious. But Inosuke had me cracking up with Zenitsu when they go off when the girls are like, you know, we'll miss you. Be more nice to girls, you know, to the one part, and Inosuke just has like the puffs going around his head. He's like, like, dude, so funny. And then at the end or towards the end where they get to the train, and Inosuke has me fucking dying because he's just like, what is this animal? It's huge. And then instead of being like, let's avoid it, he's like, I'll lead the charge.
Yeah. And at first you think Tanjiro is like playing with him, and he's like, oh, you shouldn't attack it, like just all of a sudden. But it's like, he's also a country dude. He doesn't know what the fuck this thing is.
He's like, it could be the guardian spirit of this land. You're like, he's just messing with Inosuke so he doesn't get attacked. And Zenitsu's like, are you an idiot? It's a train. I'm like, oh yeah, Tanjiro kind of is simple, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, you tend to forget, but it's so funny. It's just like, it's so like the cute animation with their eyes all beady.
Yep.
Oh, but how could I forget? Before they leave though, I wanted to talk about the other kid who passed examination.
Yep.
Almost forgot. Forgot his name. But wow, my man just got huge out of nowhere. Can anyone explain that? I'd love to have a comment of someone explaining how not only you tripled in weight, but in fucking length.
And I think he got the scar too. I don't think he had the scar.
I think
he had the scar.
He had the scar. Yeah, that kid's been through some shit. I don't know what it is, but
I like to think in my headcanon that like when they brought him in the headquarters, they were like, and that's the gym over there, and he was like, that's the gym. All right, I don't know, I'll be here, and he just hung out in the gym.
And I also went on a rack to stretch all my ligaments out and just grow a full fucking foot. I'm like, what has it been, like 3 months? How is that even feasible? I'm like, this dude's going to be an actual giant. I want to see him. He's going to be like that one dude with the beads. Huge. Like, that's how, and I was like, wow.
How old are they? Were they like...
I don't know, like 15-ish, I would assume.
Right, 16?
Yeah, I would assume. I could be wrong. Guys could correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I would assume. I would assume he's around the same age, if not a year older.
A year or two older.
Because he was the same size as all of them. When they passed examination, all of a sudden it's like towering.
Look,
he's like Broly.
He's been eating his vegetables.
Look, man, let that be a lesson to you, kids. Steak and potatoes and a lot of
squats.
A lot of squats. Yeah, dude, he's fucking huge, man. I'm pumped to see him fight. Is my thing. Yeah. Because he's like a total dick.
And I love
but you know Tanjiro. Tanjiro's gonna have a heartfelt with that kid. Like if he can get through to him, you know what I mean? Like you will.
So even his reaction to meeting him, right? He even says it. He purposely stepped out the way to avoid him, and the dude bumped into him anyway, right? So like the dude's got beef. He's checking him anyway. But Tanjiro, because he's just the best, his immediate reaction is, hey, nice to see you. You got really big. I hope we meet again soon. Like, you know what I mean? Instead of being like, yo, nigga, what the fuck? Like, he's not picking beef with anybody, but he's like just so like happy to see that dude. You know what I mean? And it's like, Tanjiro.
No, my man, dude. But yeah, I'm very stoked to see that kid fight whenever he does. What his style is, fire, water, wind, whatever.
He's very just I guess visually, to be honest, but he's very reminiscent of I think his breathing is wind breathing. One of the other pillars, the one who like fucking stabbed Nezuko. Yeah, right. Like because they both have like those crazy fucking scars on their face, and like
they do have similarities in the face. I can see your and it's not like crazy. But
no, and it might just end there. But like I don't know, if there's like
I don't know. I'm just really stoked
maybe he's like a relative to him.
Yeah,
so that's why
you don't even know why he's there. Like he's been just in the background the whole time.
That or he could be like his disciple, almost like how the butterfly lady has like.
That would make a lot of sense.
It would.
They're both fucking cocks.
Of the pillars, that dude is definitely like he's more in line with his personality.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see where that character goes.
Me too.
And what his backstory is, because you don't just like. I mean, some people can be naturally more of a dick than other people, but I feel like to be that much of a dick, like some serious shit has had to happen to you, and to everyone it has,
Also, there's one. Well, it's not a particular scene, but I like the fact that with Tanjiro and Zenitsu and Isuka, now that they're leaving, I like the fact that in this whole rehabilitation thing, it does genuinely feel like they've gotten stronger with the training. I know like a lot of anime tends to do this where it's like, oh, we beat the big bad guy, but we barely just escaped with our lives. Like, let's train. And they like punch a tree for a couple episodes and they're like, all right, let's do it again. And you're like, but what happened? Like nothing, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I do actually feel like, especially with like the breathing constant technique they learn, like they're actually stronger, right? And like even like they said with that, it like increases their stamina build like 6-fold, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's just something about like, I like that because again with the spider demons in the forest and now like learning about like the fucking higher ups and how crazy this dude is, the stakes and the threat for me have been reestablished, so it's nice to know that like these guys aren't just going to go out and get bodied again.
Exactly, because it wouldn't make sense because we're not even that far relatively into the show, and like we're already at the point where it's like, okay, the lower 5, what's next? The upper 5 or the upper whatever 6, and then the big bad, right? So it's like we've moved from like any normal demon pretty relatively quickly. Like that's not even. I'm sure that like Tanjiro will just like make quick diced fucking cheese out of these dudes, like So like it would be silly if they just went there and then they're fighting these guys and it's all of a sudden he's stronger when Tanjiro barely escaped with his life from one of them. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like so he'd have to get a power.
The one that Tanjiro escaped from and killed. Do you know what like level on the hierarchy
he was? 6. If I'm not mistaken.
He was 6.
Lower 6. So,
lower 6. So it's there's the 12 demons and they basically divide it up in half. You have the lower 6 and the upper 6. He was the lower 6. So he was the lowest of the lower ranks. So essentially,
was that it? Does it go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or does it go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's essentially he was the weakest, strongest of like the demons.
So that's what I'm saying. And you think how hard he fucking bodied.
That's what I'm saying. Is like
then even you got to think about it from their standpoint where he iced fucking his lower 5 except for 1. So he has to be pretty fucking confident in his upper 5 to literally pretty much cut away.
Yeah, because he even says he's like, none of them had changed for centuries, and you guys are like expendable.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I
that's
mean?
that's what I'm saying. The fact that he was like, I can't, like, you guys are literally useless, is like these upper 6 have to be some real ass niggas, because they have to be able to just clock like waves of demon slayers, you know what I mean, on command, because like, fuck, dude, they must be. I think then this next arc, the Infinity Train arc, one, just dope that they're making into a movie. Can't wait for that. But I think it's gonna be so actually it's probably gonna be that dude, because we saw him at the end. He was on the train.
The lower one.
Yeah, who like got his blood or whatever, and he was like, "Go kill the dude, and I'll give you more." He was on the train when it ended, so obviously he's gonna fuck somebody's shit up or try. But I wonder if we're gonna see in this arc one of the upper 6. Like,
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Because one of the pillars is on that train too. The flame breathing guy.
I don't think it's gonna be an upper 6 yet. No, I think they're going to wait. Yeah, I think they got to give this one his due, because this is almost like, instead of going through the lower 5 now, it's like we've all just summed you up into one dude, and it's like once you beat like this boss, now you're on the... I could be wrong, but
don't forget that one bitch who got the blood from what's his face. We don't know how strong she's going to turn out.
That's exactly who she is.
That's what you're talking about, and we don't know how strong she's going to end up. For all we know, she could be at that power level too. You know?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's really whatever she takes of it.
Sure.
But what's interesting, that fire totem guy, whatever his name is, he has one of the most interesting personalities, because no matter what, he's like, he doesn't change his personality, but he'll be like, yeah, how are you? I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like, he has that like peppiness to him, but like you just, cause you never know what
he almost has like an All Might thing where he's like kind of smiling all the time, where it's like almost eerie, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's like a little bit weirdly more condescending than All Might.
Yeah,
you know? There's like an air to where you're like,
because even when he's like, Master, I agree with everything, but I want to fucking kill this bitch. Like, he doesn't change where
that's what I mean.
Like
it's
always
like
happy, but
I don't know. What's also interesting is I think that the and then we'll move into the season as a whole. But I think what's interesting is the demon, the head of the Demon Slayer Corps, and at least Shinobu. I don't know how many others of them, but I think like they know a little bit more about like the flame breathing technique than like A, they've let on, or B, that they've told Tanjiro.
It's gonna come.
Because I think when he told her, there was like that initial look of her like, oh shit, he like that's what you did, and she made a point to be like, no, don't confuse the two and say that they're the same thing, because there's a difference between flame breathing and fire breathing, or fire breathing technique. So I wonder like how significant of a role like having that breathing technique specifically is going to play into, you know what I mean? Maybe like that's supposed to be like the the ace in the hole, right? Like the one crux that can like weaken whatever his name is.
I don't know. It's clearly powerful, because Tanjiro's ancestor's been whooping ass since his grandfather, as far as we know. And I'm really stoked to see what the flame guy, that pillar, what he's made of, because when it shows it at the end, that little snippet for the movie, and he's just like got the whole ground lit on fire, and he's like, let's go, you know, and you're like, whoa.
He's like, no one's dying on my watch.
Yeah,
I'm like, all right.
for real. I was like, okay, get behind this guy, you know. So I'm very excited to see what he's made of. And I just want to see more Inosuke just fucking yelling, you know what I mean? And just charging at the team.
Dude, I just want to see more of these three. Like,
this they're great, man.
Is my
they're
favorite
so
squad.
good, dude. I love it. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Fucking any predictions, or you want to go into like the anything else?
I just hop right into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you guys think of the season as a whole?
Fucking... Obviously, we're gonna say it's phenomenal. I mean, there wasn't.
Could have done better.
Yeah, right. Where's fucking Carlos? Yeah, he's gonna be
animation on point, character building spectacular.
On point, show garbage. That'd be like. Then I'd be like, okay. Yeah. You imagine that? I just went on that whole fucking tangent, and then you're like, "What'd you think of the show?" Could have been better.
Honestly, kind of a letdown.
Holy shit, that'd be funny, right? No, I think the show was phenomenal. It definitely, that next to Vinland Saga have been the favorite two summer animes, and Demon Slayer's up there in like top 10, for animes that in general, just aesthetically beautiful. Really, I can't even stress it enough. Aesthetically, it is so gorgeous, dude. Like I have seen very few anime that, if any, that are on that level of aestheticism there. And then obviously Tanjiro and the crew just meld together so well. I love the pacing of the show, which for anyone who knows me knows that's a huge deal for me to like the show or not. All the characters are interesting and deep. They're not very surface level. You could get attached to them. Yeah, I think that as a whole, there wasn't really any episodes where I was like, this was pointless.
Yeah.
There were episodes, now, I will say there are episodes, obviously, there has to be, that are slower than others, and there are ones, there are episodes that I like more than others, obviously, right? It can't be just monotone the whole time.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I feel like even the episodes that they were like, you know what I mean? Like, we're just kind of coasting along, like, but like they still serve purpose in some way or another.
Sure.
You know, I guess the only argument that could be made, and again, just to play devil's advocate, might be like the 3 episodes prior to this one where they're in the infirmary. They maybe could have condensed that, you know what I mean, in like an episode or 2. Not saying that's my stance. I'm just saying that I would take that as a valid argument if someone were to bring that up to me.
Okay.
And we could disagree with that, which again, I probably would if you look back on it. But I could see that if I were to have to give one knock, I think that maybe those 3 could have been condensed.
I agree.
Like
I do think it was needed at the end of the day, but I also feel like that's why this next arc on the train is in a movie, because I feel like the production, the studio at least, it doesn't want to mess up the pacing that they've kind of laid out so far.
Absolutely.
And they don't want to extend it into something, that turns into like, why am I watching this? Or that was really like, it didn't need to be there. And that's why I'm kind of excited, because in this format, it's going to be a shorter period of time. They're obviously going to have to cram a lot into it, but it's also going to be that fast paced, like, it's going to keep you on the edge of your seat, how this last episode did. And I'm really fucking pumped for that, because it's not going to be some drawn out fucking shit.
Definitely.
It's going to be, ooh.
Yeah, it's my favorite anime.
Like, ever?
Not ever, obviously.
It's like, whoa, bold.
But like of new anime that have come out in the last year, it's number 1. I mean, so like UFO Table, who's the production studio behind it, like there's in the last like year, I want to say, or even 2 years, like I've watched a lot of anime, and to me there's such a clear line when something is made like with passion and care, and something is made like for profit, right? Or it's made like, you know what I mean? And like there's you could literally hate this show if like you don't know how to use your brain. But like you can't argue that like this isn't made with passion, that the people who work on this show like don't like it or don't care about it, because like every fucking drawing, every frame of this show is literally like oozing with fucking passion. Like I love that. I love watching this show. I love seeing this thing and knowing that the people who made it like care about it as much as you care about watching it. You know what I mean? Because I think that it translates in everything, right? It like the writing, you know what I mean? Like the pacing and stuff. Like I don't think there's anything in this show that went the way it went, and altering it like would have made it better. Right, I think it would make it different, but I would think you would achieve the same result, right? So like that, like what you were saying, I think you could condense that, but I don't think that would make it better. I think I agree.
The same I think it would just be the same. Yes, I agree with you.
And so in that case, I actually like the fact that it's extended, because everything in this show like has a purpose to me, right? Like even the episodes that are slower than the more fast-paced ones, like they serve a purpose, right? They're character moments. There was one episode. Not the second to last, but it was one of the episodes in that whole rehabilitation thing, where Tanjiro like gets to have a real like sort of sit down with Shinobu, and it's the episode where he's like on the roof with her, and she's explaining like sort of like the tricks to learning like the total concentration, constant breathing technique, and all of a sudden he's like, "Yo, are you angry?" And she's like, "What?" And he's like, I smell it on you, like you smell angry all the time," and it's like. Moments like that, like where, you know what I mean? You could go to somebody and be like, yo, that episode of Demon Slayer, and it was like, yeah, it was cool. But like to me, those are the moments that like push it up right on top for me, because they elevate these characters and the story just as, in my opinion, just as much as like the action does, right? Because action without weight is meaningless, right? There's no point in having like a dope fighting scene if I don't care about any of the characters fighting. But I do. Every single character in this show that fights, that like has a weapon or not, honestly, like I care about, I'm invested in, and so like I'm attached to this story now. I love it, and that's the most important thing.
You have to have some sort of emotional connection, and I think the show has nailed it, and that's why it is up there, you know what I mean, as one of the top.
Yeah, I can agree with you. I think my favorite part is their fighting styles and how it's integrated into their personalities so well. Like, especially with, not even Tanjiro, just Inosuke, it's just, he's very headstrong, and that's in his fighting, and like to a T, there isn't a time when he's fighting, and that's not how he is, Even when he's kicked down, he's like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I need to just not think and
even
just go balls to the wall.
Breathing technique, animal is not like a traditional fighting style. He made that up, you know what I mean?
But I want to see that more never
invented, and that like again, yeah.
But even if you like go way
like,
back to when you remember that meme with like the soccer goal things when it's fucking they're like kicking the balls back and forth.
Yeah.
But even then, that was so unique and just that development on how you're fighting. Like this bitch was just throwing balls, and the other one with his hands and the eyeballs,
the arrows and
he's
shit.
like clicking, and it's like adjusting it. Like that's just fucking dope. And to think of that and integrate it the way that they did, even for the enemies, like it was fucking
very
badass.
unique and thinking outside the box. And for anyone who knows me, or you guys would agree, I'm assuming that like even if these shows have similar like overarching themes to them, the fact that they do it so differently and so makes it interesting.
Yeah, because like even you said, Tanjiro is very similar to Naruto in some essences and sense in his personality, and you can sit there and you're like, yeah, I can agree with that, but it's so different because it's its own animal, you know?
Yeah.
Like
so
they turned
actually,
it into its own show.
We were talking with some friends of ours, and the point was brought up recently about like the difference in anime, right? Between like what makes one anime different from another, and one of the arguments was like the protagonist, right? If you have a protagonist that is just a cookie cutout version of another protagonist, if there's not enough things in the newer character that's different, he's just a reskinned version of like the first character, right? And a lot of the ones people draw from are like the big three, right? Like your Goku's, Naruto, Luffy's people are like Asta. I happen to think Asta is just Naruto with a different hair color, right? Because there's nothing about Asta to me that separates him and makes him unique enough of a character to where he can stand, on any sort of individual footing. And that's just my opinion, so feel free to attack me for it.
We couldn't go a fucking episode without.
Well, so I'm only bringing this up to accentuate us talking about Demon Slayer because I feel like Tanjiro does that right. Tanjiro pulls from and has a lot of similarities to your classic shonen protagonist, and this show is very clearly cut from the same shonen cloth that any other shonen before it has come.
Yes.
But it does it better because it does change the formula, right? There's enough about it that is unique and refreshing, both in the characters and the actual like threading and plot of the story to make it its own thing, right? It's not just another version of Naruto. It's not just another version of One Piece or any show that's come before it, because it does so well to understand those shows that it can adapt and like refresh what needs to be changed, but still keep like the core and the essence of what makes this genre of a show as great as it is.
You don't have to convince me. You know that shit.
And it's funny because I've actually I've started watching Black Clover again. I'm on like episode like 73 or something of like season 2, obviously. And it's funny when you say that because I agree. Like obviously you can tell it's very. You get a lot from watching Naruto and finishing it. Asta is like super fucking similar to him. I can see the differences, and I've talked to a lot of people who watch Black Clover, and they're like, it is different, but it is the same. And I feel it from both ends, where I've watched episodes, and I'm like, this is just reskin Naruto. But then I can also see where it's like, okay, that's an interesting development. That's kind of different, but at the same time, it's like, am I rewatching a show that I've already seen?
Right.
But it's to the point where I actually really like the show, but I do agree with you in terms of Tanjiro, where it's similar, but it's completely different at the same time. Like it pays homage to the roots of like other shows.
I feel
but
like
it's its own. I
agree.
Like,
I feel like when it's done, in my opinion, poorly, there's room for debate. Right? It's like, oh, Asta is similar enough, or whoever is similar enough, but they are also kind of different. When it's done correctly, I feel like there is no room almost for debate. Like I don't think you can argue that Tanjiro is a cutout of any other shonen protagonist. Right? And I think that's my point. Is that like if it's done, poorly or not as well, there's you might see it, you might not, right? There's that wiggle room. But like to do it correctly is like it's unanimous. There is no room for distinction. Like this is a different character than any other character.
I wouldn't say it's cut out, but you can definitely depict where it's like anything where it's a shonen anime. It's supposed to have these like personality traits of a protagonist, and that's like you watch it and you're like, I can see that similarity, but it is different, and there's some shows that they obviously level it differently depending on their characters and stuff like that, and you kind of know what you're watching from the first couple episodes. Like I'm watching Black Clover and I know what I'm getting from it because obviously the characters are similar to ones you've already seen, and it's not as much as, oh, you're watching the same show. It's different in its own respect, but it is going to be very similar in other respects. But that. Where this show, you can watch it and you're like, oh, that was very like Naruto of him to say. But at the same time, it's not. It's him, and he's his own person. And that's where I agree with you, to where, yeah, it's its own animal. And I really like his character and how they developed him, and I really wish they don't, like, fuck it up in the future. And I don't think they will. But I'm really curious to see when, especially when he gets into the higher-up enemies, how his personality is going to clash with them. Almost like the Attack on Titan, where we're like, how are their personalities? They're so different. How are they going to clash when shit goes down? I'm really curious on how Tanjiro is going to hold up in the future.
We know it's unique. Demon Slayer is Demon Slayer is Demon Slayer. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And it does it well. And I think it's just been really successful because of that. And I hope that it continues to have success so that we can talk about it more.
Fuck yeah.
But that's it for us, guys. If you have any thoughts or opinions, please let us know. We are welcome to hearing them.
Yes,
But until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.
Bye.
Hey, folks, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss our new episodes.
You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Apostles of Anime, where you can keep up with us and offer new ideas for the show.
You can listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean, and more. Again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys back next week to talk about all things anime.